everyone. This is Yijuan here. Welcome to today's very special MindMatters Masterclass. So let me just introduce to you our first speaker. It's none other than Judy. She is a self-growth coach and a book author and a speaker as well. And of course, with us, Nadia is a very dear sister. She's an anti-drug advocate. She has come a long way in her own journey of transformation and recovery. And today she's also a motivational speaker. Today's theme is all about rise above. I think when people talk about rise above, there's this idea about strength and also perseverance. But I reckon that the journey can also be sometimes a bit messy, chaotic, maybe filled with self-doubts as well. So we're going to look through all this and kind of see what this means for each and every one of us here. So to begin, right, I want to invite Nadia and Judy to perhaps share a moment in your life where you had to rise above a difficult season and what the experience taught you about yourself.
Hi everyone, so my name is Nadia. So back to the question. I think this happened last year where I lost the one that I love the most. I lost my job within a day. So at that point of time, I felt very suffocating. I felt that I was alone. I even told a lot of my mentors that, I just want to decompose. I just want to rot. Like, I really cannot think of anything. I think Judy also witnessed it. But what worse can happen? Life has to go on, Like, I am still healing until today, but I am so much better to be compared with that Nadia that time. And yeah, I rise above. Like, I just don't want to, my life has to continue, I feel. And one of the real key happiness that I find until today is when I give people, like I contribute to people. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Nadia. I can imagine it must have been a difficult time for you having to go through that. I'm so hearing that for yourself, it's also identifying the sense of purpose, which also gives direction for you. Okay. Let's hear from Judy.
In 2018, I fell into a deep depression and I felt really ashamed of it because there was nothing specific in my external world that I can say, boom, that caused it. That happened, which means that validates and justifies why I am depressed right now. But at that time, I remember everything was great. I would wake up and I felt no fear. I felt not happiness, not sadness. And I dragged my feet to work every day in a job that is seemingly fulfilling, with a team that is seemingly amazing. But I just could not understand why it was that I kept telling myself, if there was a button I could press today and I could just say, game over for this life and I'm ready for the next one, I would press it 10 out of 10 times. And I was drinking a bottle of wine at least every night just to get myself to sleep. And it took me about 2 years, and I write about it in my book, to work my way out of that. But that was by far one of the most challenging times of my life.
I was just wondering, Judy, as you talk about that difficult moment, what are some things that you learned about yourself or about the world around you?
I learned that we have a magic in us. And when we keep looking outside of us for the answers, at some point in life, we realize that the answers aren't there. Just in the same way that I was looking outside of myself to justify why I was feeling bad, it's in the same way that we look outside of ourselves and we try to understand why we're not feeling good. And once we can reframe that story as to where our feelings or our emotions come from and can be created from, that changes our whole perspective about our life and our world.
I think it's not easy, both of you say, there's a lot of emotions that we're trying to deal with while trying to manage, the conversations, the stories and the narratives that we form about ourselves and the world. And I'm just wondering whether you feel that resilience, ability to bounce back or to rise above is something that people can actively develop, or is something that life throws upon us and forces us to lean into it or to tap on it. Yeah, so I'm just wondering, do you feel your early experiences shape the way you see challenges today, and how has that shaped you?
Resilience, I believe it builds in time, because I used to be an ex-offender myself. So when I was inside prison, it's no choice. No matter what, also you need to be resilient because you're stuck. But then I started to learn resilience when I got released. The resilience in finding a job, the resilience of getting accepted by your family members because there's no trust. Like why I keep on going. So until today is like you need to have that resilience in you to carry on with your life. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're sharing that, Nadia, that when you came out, it wasn't easy. There are a lot of things to handle. How did you keep yourself going? Because we could easily retreat or get stressed and worried about taking new steps forward. And there's a lot of discomfort, right? Of trying to get used to things, juggling new roles, etc. What kept you going?
Honestly, because my purpose, I want to transform, I want to change to be a better person. I mean, not to prove anyone, just to prove to myself. Like, until when I want to be inside prison, for how long? And then and then after that, I started to ask for help. I personally walked to Sana, and I said that I just come out, like, what can I do? So that is where, I think with the people around you, especially with ex-offenders, your community really plays a part. You need to be with the good people, then you will be good. Yeah.
I mean, there's a saying that says we're the sum of the 5 people that we hang around with me. So the people, our hurt is important. It determines how things lah. Okay, let's see Judy.
Yeah, I want to answer this question in a slightly different way. And the first part of it being, we are far more resilient than we lead ourselves to believe. When I hear Nadia's story, even when she says it, we're back into a corner and we have no choice, all of a sudden we manage to, as my friend who is a single mom says, when you are a single mom, you suddenly pull money out of your ass. She's like, I don't know how it happens. It just suddenly happens. But my point about resilience is you come to learn that resilience isn't in the shape that we normally perceive it to be, right? We talk about resilience almost synonymous to strength, almost synonymous to push through. We have to push through. That is resilience. But true resilience is like water down a stream. Right? If you think of a water that is flowing down the stream, the water that will get to the bottom is not the water that's hard like rock and will start colliding with every single rock that it faces, but it's the one that moves around the rock. That says, hey, this is not working. Like, let's go somewhere else. And I loved how Nadia said when she came out, she asked for help. And the community is such a big part of our resilience as well. And being able to voice that and share how we feel is a part of resilience. So I would even say, instead of thinking about resilience as a strength, but maybe resilience is a softness. Resilience is an agileness. Resilience is a flexibility. And just like yoga, when we can start to practice resilience as a flexibility, that's where we get better at it.
Yeah. So talking about that, Judy, I mean, that was really nice. This lens of looking at resilience from a lens of softness, a lens of ongoing life practice, because I think as human beings, there are also times when the emotion may get the best of us. And I was just thinking for myself, even when I have to deal with difficult time, I can be quite emotional. Like, the script of that event can just keep playing on in my head. And it takes away, constructive energy for myself. And I realized that at some point in my life, that to be really careful at where I put my attention and my energy on, because if I continue letting that negative script runs in my mind, even though the event has happened and taken place, and I'm able to focus on more constructive things to move me forward. So that's a lesson that I learned as well about not being stuck in a loop about things that we gravitate towards negatively. But if you can reconstruct it in a more positive way, or put the energy to think about what's within our control and work towards direction that we can take forward, I think it's helped me a lot in navigating the emotional stress lah. As female, I don't know whether male have this thing, but I think as a female myself, I have more emotional rumination. Yeah, but talking about that, I wanted to ask Judy again as well, because I know you work as a coach and you see various female leaders, female executives. Do you also see young working adults coming to you? Is there a common theme that you see, that women has to deal with in juggling their roles in both the workplace and at home? And, what are they most wanting to find a sense of purpose and freedom in?
I see a lot of women who are at war with themselves. They're at war with what they feel and what they know and what they should be, this image of what they should be. Say, for example, the working mom who feels like I should be showing up even more because I'm working against the perception that now I'm a working mom, maybe I'm not working as hard anymore. Or I think this is more the image of, because we have to show that as women, we can do just as well as men. It means that even when my body is saying, need a rest, I say, I'm just going to keep pushing through because I have to show that I can do it. Because the world tells me now that, that we have to push for equality. We have to do all of this. So it's almost like this overemphasis on we are super strong, we have to do all of these things, when inherently we do play different roles. And there are still moments where, yeah, maybe somebody else has done it, but perhaps that's not for me right now. And that differentiator is really hard because we also get these, empowering messages of like, go for it, go, keep going, do it, you can do it, nothing's going to stop you. Yeah, and it's like, sometimes I like to take it from Ali Wong, who is the comedian. I don't know if anyone remembers. She goes, no, I don't want to lean in, I just want to lie down. But maybe that's okay. And maybe I do want to lie down sometimes. And that's the best that I can do for my resilience. So yeah, when I'm coaching women in particular, I get this. I coach a lot of executives, a lot of women in tech, women as entrepreneurs, women as this. And it's like, yeah, but when did you last allow yourself just to be human?
Yeah, because talking about this, right, I think the pressure is real. I think in society, we tend to carry a little bit more expectations on ourselves as women to take it all in and shoulder and be able to manage everything on our plate. And it's hard to sometimes give ourselves the room to rest or to put our need first above the rest, above others in our lives. So I'm also wondering, Nadia or Judy, what do you think like women find it so hard to listen to our own needs? And how do you think we can start reconnecting with our inner voices to allow ourselves to say no sometimes, to allow ourselves to perhaps rest, simply we need to or want to?
I think from my point of view, right, as a woman, we always want, I agree to Judy, because now women wants equality. Like they want, I'm sorry, but this is just from my point of view. No, just being genuine. Woman wants to be recognized. Woman wants acceptance. Woman wants validation. Even me, myself. But then when I think back, actually, you do not need those validations from people. You know yourself very well. Like, you know your values, right? There is like back then I wanted this acceptance so much from the community from the society But then when I think back, I got burnout. I was like, but then at the end of the day, 70% of me is like, okay, that fulfillment. But that 30% is like, okay, I'm so exhausted. But now, when I finally accept myself, like, okay, you want to talk to me about anything about myself, by all means, you can say. But as long as I know my values, which sometimes women, they want to be the best mother, the best sister, the best girlfriend. But do we be the best for ourselves? Yeah. So that I always will do that every single day. Like when I want to give impacts to the youth and what, I will just think like, okay, so I am the hope in human form for them. But am I the hope for myself?
I think that's a beautiful way of looking at it, to also look at how can we be the best for ourselves first, right? From a full tank, a full cup, rather than from empty itself. How about you, Judy? Any thoughts about it? Or what comes to your mind to Nadia share?
I love what Nadia said, and I think I also want to pick up on what you said. It's like, when do we put ourselves in front of other people? And I would even say you don't even need to put yourself in front of other people, right? Or above other people. You just need to put yourself in the same level that you put other people, right? If we think of it, we think, oh, okay, that person really needs help. Okay, I should go and help them. But do I need help? No, because I'm a strong, independent woman. So it's almost like when we recognize the help needed in others, or when we recognize even the achievement in others, we're so quick. That person is so smart, that person is so clever, that person is this, that person really needs support. But what if for a second you could project yourself as a person in front of you, just like anybody else that you're meeting every day, and say, hey, what does this person need? And it's a simple exercise, and yet we deny ourselves just the same level of treatment that we give to so many people. All right. And when I talk to coaches, when I talk to therapists, when I talk to so many people, one of the things that burns them out or drains people is like over-helping, over-giving. I went to this water therapy. I don't know if everyone's done water therapy before. It's very interesting. So it's essentially, it's very, very interesting. The lady in Bangkok, if anyone's going to Bangkok, I can give you her contact, where my husband's like, you're going to go to this lady's house and she's going to put you inside her private pool and you don't know her and you're going to spend 3 hours with her. And I was like, yes. And it's like, are you sure this is safe? But anyway, she's safe. And she moves my body. So essentially, I've got my eyes closed, and she moves my body. For example, she would hold my torso, and she'll sway my body like this. And then she'll circle it around, and she'll start, moving it around the pool. And she'll even say, are you ready to do a turn? And she'll turn my body, and I'm supposed to completely relax. And in that time, I'm a strong swimmer. I was like, yep, I got this. And afterwards, she said, if you would like, I can share with you some observations. And I said, yeah, sure, of course, I'm open to it. And she said, I noticed that one side of your body was often a lot slower to respond. And I was like, oh, what do you mean? And she said, well, you would flow very quickly on one side and the other one kind of just resists it. And she said, can I ask if there is anything that you are resisting in your life? And she said, do you resist help? And when she said that, it just hit me right at my heart, because I was like, my first instinct was like, I don't resist help. You can see, but even the way that I responded to that, I was resisting help. And yeah, I feel like in this effort of trying to be there for everybody else, we forget that we are also a part of everybody else.
Right. I can so totally relate to that, Judy. I think at times we all have this side of us to put on that strong front, not to be seen as vulnerable, and it may come across as we can do it all. Yeah, and that's where we have to be careful about that. Just so that we know that we can also reach out for support and we are supported by the people around us. But I want to shift the topic a little bit, because we talk a bit about the stories that we tell ourselves. We talk a bit about having to do it all. And I'm just wondering, what do you think, why is it that women struggle to also recognize our own achievement? We can have it all and we still feel like we're not good enough at times, or we cannot accept people's help. Why do you think that, it's so hard for us to accept help or celebrate our own selves, and how far we've come?
I once lost my job because a managing director told a lie about me. And it was an outright lie, which I only found out about after she left the business. And my boss at that time, who I know and I trust really well, said that one day he walked into a meeting with her. And she said, you need to watch out for Judy. And he said, oh, why do I need to watch out for Judy? And she said, because I saw her sitting on the lap of this other director or something from another country. Which is completely untrue. And my boss, he knows that. He's like, you're doing crap. Like, that would be the furthest thing that she would ever do. But anyway, so he said, okay, so what would you like me to do? I can give her that feedback. And she said, no, it's okay. Don't give her that feedback. And he said, well, if you're going to tell me something, then you should expect me to do something about it. And she goes, no. I'm just letting you know I'm not going to be threatened by some new girl who's just come into the business. And he was very taken aback, and he actually made an HR complaint about it. But looking back to your question, why is it so hard for women to speak up, is oftentimes even the women who could lift each other up are actually pushing each other down. Like, I had a hard time getting up here, which means that if I see you, you better have a hard time getting up here too. And there's a stat that actually shows both men and women are not supportive of women who self-promote, right? So both men and women do not like women who speak up and talk about their achievements, which is very sad. There is a lot of data and science that's gone around this, and I'll share more when we talk about the I Am Remarkable workshop, which I'm a facilitator for. But essentially, we also work and live in a culture where there are gender roles that we are seen to play. Women, we always say, females are great because we're the more empathetic leader, right? Which is celebrated, but then that also comes with, okay, so then I need to be more empathetic, which means that I need to be softer. And then we create all of these mental associations, which oftentimes boils down to, hey, let's just keep the peace. Let's not, in Australia, we say the tall poppy syndrome. Don't be the tall poppy that stands up. In Japan, you say it's, don't be the nail. The nail that sticks up will be hammered down. And so even in those moments where we're like, hey, I kind of want to share about something amazing that I've done, you think about, am I going to be seen as bragging? Don't be the tall poppy syndrome. If I share, then people are going to look, not like me. Even the women who are maybe above me are not going to support me. And then the pressure of all of that, it's like, hey, it's okay. Maybe I'll just stay here.
I find a comment that somebody also resonate with what you're sharing, that in her experience, women may not support women as well, given the sense of competition. I'm just wondering, actually, right, I wanted to ask Nadia, in your own opinion and your own experience, why do you think women minimize their own achievement? How do you celebrate yours?
One woman, maybe they're shy. I feel that, they don't want to achieve, because sometimes we human, we are not contented with what we have. So this milestone that we achieve, we don't recognize it. We want more, right? And then especially now, where in this challenging world where everything is competitive, nothing seems to be enough. Like me, myself, I used to compete. I don't know what is it that I'm compete for, but I feel that I don't celebrate my achievements. Till I encountered this where at that point of time, I really don't want to go out from my house. So one of my mentors was saying, babe, I think you should go out and then buy yourself a bubble tea or chocolate. I told you, yeah. I've never done that. Like bubble tea, really, yeah. I think like that, But after I drank that, I really like this. Hey, you well done. So until today, I do that. I celebrate my achievements. I do. Like sometimes I feel lazy to just do my workouts, but I do. And then after that, I celebrate it. So I don't need anyone to say like, hey, you well done, you good job. No need. That's how I do lah. Yeah.
How about you, Judy? How do you celebrate your own achievement? How do you affirm, recognize yourself?
Yeah. I always say I'm a comedian. But my husband says funny people don't say that they are funny. You need somebody else to say that you are funny. But if you guys think I'm funny today, then clearly I'm a comedian. I'm actually really drawn into the science of it. So people who self-promote are 4 times more likely to be considered for promotions. Did you know that? They did CV tests where they put the same CV, one said John, one said Jennifer. And John was rated more highly and offered a 13% higher salary than Jennifer. And when I see these studies and I see this research, it really fuels me to say, okay, I have 2 choices. I can either have the choice of saying, life is unfair, right? Like, bias is so hard, look at all these biased people. Or I can say, well, what can I do to make a difference? And what can I do to get the outcome that would be beneficial and serving for me? And that's what drives me to self-promote. And I think for me, it's yes, to understand, to put myself in positions where I be considered for promotion, to be considered as somebody who is of greater value simply because maybe I have a female name and I'm not John, I am Judy. But also to allow the people around me to see what they can create if they can celebrate themselves from time to time. There was a girl that I was working with within my previous job, and she said to me, Judy, there's no point in me asking for that promotion. And I said, why? And she said, because you have to be white to get into a management position. And it really hurt me. And because I knew that she was even more capable than me. She could do so many things that I couldn't do. And I guess I made it a mission. If she feels that she can't do it, then I'm going to show her what doing it looks like. And maybe by doing that, I can inspire her to try for herself. I want her to look at me and be like, what the heck? If Judy can get that from Judy, if she can get it, then I should be fighting for that. Right? And yeah, and I always think about that in the back of my mind when I go out there to say a few words about what I've done.
Yeah, I need to share. Right? I'm a little bit for me, right? Because I asked all of you about how do we recognize, celebrate ourselves. If you know me, I'm actually quite competitive as a person. Though I'm very quiet, but I'm actually quite competitive. I find that sometimes I see myself comparing to other people that I think are better than me, and I always wish I can be like them. But I realized that this comparison doesn't help me at all. And I find that, I remind myself that as I aspire to develop some of those strengths, I shouldn't dim my own light. I should continue to recognize what I'm worthy of, what I'm good at, while, looking up to these people. I find that helps me so much to stay grounded because there's no end to comparison. There will always be people that's better than me. And what I can respect and, admire, I should still be clear about the light that I bring to the world. Yeah, so that really helps me a lot. And I want to bring a little bit back down because, we're at different life stage right now. And I know among the audience today, we have, mothers, we have, women entrepreneurs, we have a younger female here as well that's joining us. So I'm just wondering if I were to ask you, if we were to talk to your earlier self, your younger self in the 20s. I think a lot of our young graduates nowadays feel like they have to have their life figured out, like know what's next for me, what kind of career I want, have a roadmap perhaps, know exactly how I add value. If you were to look back at your younger self, what would you want, that younger you to know about success or your life? What do you wish you had known? Or somebody had said to you to encourage you back then when you were just in your 20s?
So let me just share. I think this was when I was in secondary school. I still remember my discipline mistress, Madam Lim Ai Hun. Really. She always told me this. Nadiatul, you're always mischievous, but you always got good grades. What do you want? Say, I don't know, ma'am. I skip school what but then do you feel happy leading this kind of life? But I really feel if I were to put myself in this youth, at this point of time, at this age, they just want exposure. They want fun. They want, like me back then, I was curious. I don't even think about my purpose in life. I don't even think like, oh yeah, like okay, when I grow up, I want to be a doctor. I don't have. So that is when, if now, right, I were to talk to my younger self, I would say, no, but it's okay. You fall, but you embrace your past. Without my past, without me being incarcerated inside prison, I wouldn't be who I am today. Like I feel that. But of course, like I wouldn't want to advise the youth, hey, you should be like me. Don't, please don't. It's just that you love your life. Like you wouldn't want to sit inside prison, and then and when now like outside, women are competitive. Can you imagine you sitting inside with a lot of women in one cell? How do you want to adapt with it? It's just take your life seriously lah.
I hate you for this, but I think I would tell myself, your parents did not know best. I went to law school and I got called to the bar in Australia, and being a lawyer was my first job because that's what my parents told me to do. Not to be a lawyer, but to do a good degree so that I could get a good job, so that I could have a good trajectory in life. The day I told my parents that I was going to stop being a lawyer, I saw my dad cry. Then I told my parents, I found this recruiter job, which is kind of like a sales job in this place called Singapore where I have no friends. And I also found these two guys who were much older than me. I was like in my early 20s, who really want me to live with them. And I'm going to pack up and I'm going to move there and live with these two older men. And my mom and my grandma were convincing me and telling me, don't do it. You're in such a good career. You have so much to live for. Why are you doing this to yourself? But something in me told me that I had betrayed myself for long enough being a lawyer. And if I continue betraying myself, I'm going to end up so far away from what I wanted to call a life well lived. And even if it means that my parents disagree with the path that I want to take, even if it means that they don't get to go to their friends and say, look how amazing my daughter is, that's okay. And I will bear the cost of that. And it's scary because we talked about community, we talked about support. But sometimes the decisions or the North Star in our heart doesn't come with support.
I totally can resonate with that because I was a good girl when I was growing up. I followed my parents and what they wanted me to do. But then I realized that, when I decided to choose alternative pathways, like non-traditional pathways, I realized that I don't need to get their permission. I just need their understanding and their support. And instead of asking for permission from them or the people around me to get to what I want or where I want to be, I'd rather that ask for their understanding and their blessing to support me. I know it sounds like I don't care about how people think, but I think to some extent, if we allow ourselves to listen to our inner voice and tune into that, we care less about how people think about us or what they think is best for us. Yeah, because if we listen, I think we kind of know. But it takes a lot of courage, a lot of clarity as well to dim down or to quieten down those voices. Yeah, do you have any moments?
I shared about how in 2018 I fell into a deep depression. So I actually ended up resigning from my job. And my boss at that time told me, it's okay, we'll hold your position. Why don't we go on sabbatical instead? And I packed my bag. I lived and I moved to Thailand for a period of time. And I lived a life of solitude. I ate by myself. I found a meditation center and I went there and spent about 4 hours there by myself every day. And I had this maybe a nudge in my heart that if you really want to know why you're here on this earth, then look inside. But if you want to avoid it, then go and play. Go drink, go party, go do all the things that everybody else is doing. But you have a knowing that is inside of you that is far greater. And at that time, I thought I was like losing my mind because I was not spiritual. I would not, I was like, what is this? Am I really going to do this? But there is a real magic in when you physically take yourself into a space where you can listen to yourself again. And long story short, out of that, I found an absolute clarity in why I am here, not just today, not just this week, not just this month, not just a temporary goal, but the meaning of my existence.
Yeah. Judy, can I ask, how did you figure out, for yourself, what is something you want to do? Or to choose this career path eventually, like what you're doing right now? How do you know?
That's a brilliant question. The voice in our heart only we can decipher and we can know. And it sounds vague and it sounds like, ooh, but how? What are the signs? But it's like falling in love. You know, when you meet someone who's really right, people are like, but what did they do? Right? And it's like, not because they opened the door for you, not because they cook for you, not because they like your parents. Like, those are nice. But there's just something that draws you to that person that is intangible, that you cannot describe or put a feeling on it. And that is the same thing as that little voice. And we are taught to think cognitively, we're taught to think logically, we're taught to follow the empirical evidence. You know, when we think of how businesses work, how so many things work. So anything that doesn't fall into that bracket falls into illogical and unreasonable and you know, baseless. And when somebody says, like, why did you leave that job that was so good, but you just can't describe it? Right? I did, but I can't explain to you why I felt that it was wrong. And it's that same feeling that comes with us. And there are moments in our life where we're willing to just trust it. Maybe we're in so much pain, we're like, we just have to. But I also wonder what happens to our life if we can trust it in moments of inspiration, in moments where we feel good and nothing is wrong, but I'm just going to choose to listen to that voice because it knows an intelligence that is far beyond logic, numbers, and patterns.
Yeah, I think that's beautifully, you know, how you describe it. I love it. And sometimes don't overthink it. I totally agree. Like, just listen to what our heart is saying about us, to us. I'm going to swing to Nadia and ask you a little bit more because I know, Nadia, you've gone through a lot in your life, you know, from time spent behind bars to coming out to rebuilding your life and now finding a sense of purpose. How would you describe what all this have taught you about failure, about overcoming?
I fail a lot of times, you know. I make a lot of mistakes. I went detours, but I learned that our journey can never be smooth. It's like the moment, but it's just that when you fall, you stand up. You need to be humble. You don't succumb your own emotions to yourself. There is a lot of people around you. You're not alone. When I make mistakes, I keep on self-blame. I keep on thinking, am I not good enough? Why am I doing all these? Why, like I let all these negative comments come into, like, gets into me. But then today, can you imagine me being an ex-offender back then? Me today. There's growth when you embrace your past. You know, but I don't want to say to the youth, you need to make more mistakes. No. It's just that all of us make mistakes, but like you said back then, life is a learning journey. I keep on learning every single day. I meet with a lot of people. So I don't self-blame myself, but I believe that when I make mistake, I detour. Sometimes, like last year, I almost lost myself. I just want to go haywire. I don't know what to do. I was lost. But then I can't die. At that point of time, I was thinking, no matter how many days I lie down, I can never decompose. So so what should I do? So that is when I start to, okay, that's it. But one thing at a time. You cannot keep on. I don't know why. Like, I meet with a lot of women, and then they will keep on saying, like, this thing can never be enough. This thing can never be enough. You know, I do this. No one recognize me. No one appreciate me. You know, I make mistakes. People keep on giving me negative comments. Trust me, like, sisters, I feel it. I feel it, especially when we ex-offenders, we always have this kind of stigma. Oh, yellow ribbon. Oh, ex-convict cannot change. So
Yeah.
I'm an ex-convict, but I embrace my mistakes. I turn my weakness into strength. So that is where now my purpose is I contribute to people. Like I told Judy one night, when I see people smile, I'm not looking for fame. I'm not looking for recognition here, really, because heal people will heal people.
Thank you for that, Nadia. Judy, can I ask you about yourself as well? Thank you for just being open. You shared that, you know, you went through a time where you had depression. Is that linked to, you know, your book and what led you to writing the book? Maybe you can share a bit about how you navigate that dark period of your life. And yeah.
Yeah, you have my book here. Oh, you guys can see it later. It had a big part to do with why I wrote my book, because when I came back from sabbatical, I realized that I wanted to create space for people to have conversations with themselves. And I started an in-house coaching function. So it meant any single person in the organization, if you want at any time to have a private conversation with a coach where there is no feedback loop, where there is no scoring or assessment, but simply a space for you to have a conversation, then you can, and the company will pay for it. And through that department, it became very clear that so many people are continuing on a path that they deem to be successful because somebody else had written a script for it. We had people who said, well, I kind of like just doing my job, but I know I have to be a manager. And when you ask, what does that knowing come from? Like, is it a real inner voice knowing? They said, well, you know, if you want to get a promotion, or if you want to be seen as valuable in the business, you have to manage people. You see people who really didn't enjoy what they were doing, but somehow they just convinced themselves that there is no other way. And it was so sad. It really, really was so sad, because I wonder how many people can put their hand on their heart and say, I love what I do, and I'm doing what I'm meant to every single day. And when you meet people that do that, people will say, wow, it's just something about them. Wow, like they really love their job. You know, like when you can say, if somebody says like they really love their job, it's such an anomaly. It's so different. That's why you'd be like, oh my gosh, wow, you love your job. Like my husband will say, you know, work is not play. Otherwise, I would call work play. Work is work. And it's so rare for people to love what they do and to follow that voice that takes them to what they're supposed to be doing. And then what happens at the end of the day when we retire and we say, hey, I'm struggling to walk now. I'm not as mobile anymore, and I've spent 80% of my life doing something that I was never meant to. Very quickly, I don't want to take up too much time, but last year I was actually struggling with a vision impairment. I have an autoimmune condition that means that a blood vessel attacked my eyeball, and I cannot see out of one of my eyes. And during the period of 6 months last year, I had to have 6 injections into my eyeball in order for me to temporarily be able to get my sight back. And that was very scary. And I spent a lot of time in hospital wards. And in a particular moment, I remember when I was in the National Taipei Hospital here, I realized that this is where we're all ending up. We're all going to get old. Going to the hospital is going to be a common occurrence. The people around us will have to change their schedules and move their schedules so that they can support us. And at that point, when we are no longer in control of our bodies and it's fading away, would we say that we lived a life that was purposeful and meaningful? And would I say that I did with this life the goodness that I know that I was destined for?
Tell us, what led to you writing a book?
I actually never wanted to write a book. Writing a book was not really my thing. I love art. I love drawing. So I wanted to do an illustrations book. And the reason I wanted to do an illustrations book is because oftentimes the people who are so closed off in thinking about these things, they're not going to go and pick up a self-help book. They're not going to go and pick up a book on sociology or psychology because they're too busy reading books on strategy and data and all of that stuff. So I thought, okay, well, what is a way to help these people who really need to hear the message and who are feeling lost, but just looking in the completely wrong direction? And what I arrived at is, what if we could create a children's book that is an artistic book that kids can read? Because we all know that when kids read books, a lot of the times it's not just the kid that's reading it. It is the parent that is reading it to the kid. And so I had this image of a book already of what I wanted to create. And it was a little bird who wakes up in the Amazon and she sees these 2 big hands, and these hands kidnap her. So she's kidnapped as a little baby bird. And then when she wakes up, she is in this beautiful sanctuary. And she's like, oh, wow, like, this is amazing. Am I in heaven? And she makes a little bird friend. And they start going around the sanctuary. And she notices certain things where she starts to question and puts a little question mark on. She sees big birds attacking little birds, but other big birds that are watching. And she says to her friend, why won't they help them? And her friend says to her, because they're worried about what would happen to them if they did. She sees 2 lovebirds, but one suddenly dies and the other one continues singing. And he said, why? She says, why does he keep singing even though his partner has passed away? And her bird friend says, maybe that is the only way that he knows how to cope. And through these very simple pictures, we get to see a reflection of the life that we live. And I wanted to portray that in a beautiful, simple way of questioning, what are we really doing here? Does this really make sense to us? And to your point of how the book came about is I took that idea and Penguin rejected it. So I got rejected because they said, we're not really selling children's books right now. But they did say, we think this is a beautiful and important message to share to the world. And would you be interested in writing it?
Yeah, it is. I have a copy of the book. I love it. And please also stay because we have a very special activity. She's going to facilitate for all of us, for Nadia. Because I know you set up orphanage in Indonesia. What was the process like, and how did you, go about navigating all this to start an orphanage?
Right. So my uncle married with an Indonesian woman there, and then he told me this. There's a lot of homeless kids there, and then I'm like, okay, and I'm like that, okay, and because I know that I can't afford to do it. I thought like, Singapore is like, you have to go through a lot of process. So my uncle was telling me, you can use your auntie's name, but it's yours. I save up my money back then when I wasn't getting paid in my previous company, but I still sustain because I have this goal. I want to be, I just want to leave a legacy. Like Judy say, like if I were to pass on, what do I leave behind? So yeah, I got about 18 kids with me.
Awesome.
Yes. So each time when I feel, Singapore is very stressful, you need to work. Just go there. Just go there. You have $100 SGD. You go there. You give them those groceries and all. I can tell you is that sometimes I feel these kids, they like, why am I not feeling grateful? But with their presence, monthly I am more disciplined. So back then sometimes like women when they stress they like to shop here and there, right? Spend here and there, and at the end of the day you cannot see the thing. But now, I cannot spend this. For what I spend this? I got kids, I got responsibility. So that is where I don't know, I think with them also I never give up in my life lah. At that point of time where I wanted to, it's because of them. How can I be so selfish when I give them life? Like when I give them, hope. Yeah. It's because of them though. I am still, moving forward. Yeah.
How do you and how can we navigate life positively even when there are detours, there are uncertainty and choices?
It's growth. My life is my learning journey. Yeah. So I think for me to be outside for 8 years, trust me, like there's a lot of times that I wanted to, I just cannot go through the challenges and all. But what keeps me going is my purpose. I just don't want to be who I was back then. But at the same point of time, I embrace my past and I save lives. Like Judy say, everyone makes mistakes. But I just want to make my life meaningful.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's my purpose. I just focus with that. That's all.
I am reminded every day that we are all dying. We sometimes talk about dying as it's like a very morbid thing, or like, what is there a serious illness? But no, the truth is we are all moving in that direction. And that puts a lot of things into perspective. And the poem I wanted to read is called The Dash. I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on a tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of birth, and he spoke the date with tears. But he said what mattered most of all was the dash between the years. For that dash represents all the time they spent on earth. And now only those who love them most know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things that you'd like to change? Or you never know how much time is left that can still be rearranged. So when your eulogy is being read with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the thing they say about how you spent your dash?
Thank you for that, Judy and Nadia, for talking about your own journey and what has helped you along the way. I want to share the next part. Right? I'm really looking forward to it. I've not done this before, but when Judy talked to me and Nadia about it, she's actually a trained and remarkable workshop facilitator. It's a global initiative that was developed by Google to help individuals celebrate their achievement.
As I had shared before, there is a lot of reasons why, as women, we don't self-promote. We are facing a mountain of distracting challenges, and it brings us to a standstill. And if we could, in this quiet, safe space that we are, in the presence of other women and supporting men, may I invite you to pick up your pen and paper, to write a series of sentences that start with, I am remarkable because. I am remarkable because. You're going to write statement after statement that says, I am remarkable because, and you are not going to stop. The only thing is to remember, it is about you. It is not about we. Often people will say, well, I am remarkable because my family did this, or my team did this. This is focused on you. However big, however small, on this International Women's Day, we can take a moment to celebrate ourselves. And if you notice yourself pause, sure, keep going. There are 1,000,001 things that you are remarkable for.
Thank you so much, Judy, for this very powerful exercise. I think it reminds all of us here that, life is impermanent. And sometimes, don't get too attached to things and our emotions because it comes and go. And also because of the impermanence, to just live life to the fullest and do the things that we always wanted to do. Buy that thing with prudence, but live life, enjoy yourself, enjoy life as it's meant to be, that give you joy. I'm going to share with you how to get Judy's book. It's called Beyond Belonging because it talks about her own journey, about coming home to your own inner voice and discovering your inner compass and loving that weird, wonderful self that we all have. So scan the QR code and you can get it actually at Kinokuniya